Hello, Deepak ji. Hello. We will start in short while.
Hello. Mindal madam, are you there?
She will be joining. We can start, but
Okay.
Okay. Should we start, Shakuntala madam?
yes,
Hello.
Priya Vaidya madam has joined.
Okay.
Priya Vaidya
Sure.
madam is with us.
Okay. Namo Namaha. Welcome to this post-lunch session. In the morning, we really had an academic feast. We had a very engaging introductory inaugural session and an equally interesting academic session one, which followed. So in continuation with that, after a short lunch break, we are continuing with academic session 2. In this session, there will be 3 papers, 30 minutes each, and all the questions will be taken at the end. This session, I request Dr. Rajeshwar Mukherjee to chair this session. Welcome, sir. I will introduce our chairperson, Dr. Rajeshwar Mukherjee, and then we will proceed with the papers. Dr. Rajeshwar Mukherjee, presently, he is faculty in the discipline of Hindu and Buddhist Studies at Nalanda International University, Ministry of External Affairs, Government of India. He has been working in the capacity of Assistant Director of Research for 3 years at Kaivalya Dhama, Lonavala. He has earned a PhD degree interfacing physics and Indian philosophy from the Kavikula Guru Kalidas, Sanskrit University, Rampur. He has authored 6 books, 2 book chapters, and many research articles in national and international journals. We are really happy to have you here, sir, as our chairperson. Now, the first paper reader in this session is Dr. Priya Vaidya. We will start with the first paper. Let me introduce her briefly. Dr. Priya Vaidya is presently professor at the Department of Philosophy, University of Mumbai. She has a long teaching experience of 30 years. Her PhD topic was Philosophy of Education according to Swami Vivekananda and Sri Aurobindo. She has been awarded the Hera Stata Fellowship for postdoctoral research on the topic Swami Vivekananda's letters, relevance to learning and living. She has been the recipient of many awards. One amongst them is Arsha Vidya Bharati Award, conferred by Arsha Vidya Vikas Kendra at Rishikesh in 2020. Many PhD and MPhil students have also worked under her guidance for their research work. One interesting detail I must mention about her is she has represented India at Republic of Korea in June 2022, where she presented a paper on a very novel theme, namely Swami Vivekananda's four-path yoga, the COVID-19 context. So we are really happy to have Dr. Priya Vaidya as the first speaker. I request Madam to start her lecture. Dr. Priya Vaidya.
At the onset, my gratitude to University of Mumbai's Department of Sanskrit and to the head, Dr. Shakuntala, and to all my teacher colleagues at the department and all present here, the participants, subject experts, scholars. So my namaskar to everybody. My topic, as you may have already seen in the program, it is on philosophical reflections on some important dimensions of yoga in Jaina philosophy, with special reference to thoughts of Acharya Haribhadra. Let me make one thing clear. Actually, I have made a PowerPoint presentation, but due to some network problem, I have not been able to connect my device, and I'm just connecting through my phone, and I have not been able to retrieve this particular thing and send it. So I'm trying my best to connect from that gadget too. But nevertheless, the presentation, as I've stated, I will be sharing, and maybe at the end, if we are able to get some network, I'm able to get some network here, I will be sharing my PowerPoint presentation. I have a presentation which comprises of 22 slides, and I will definitely follow the time which has been given to me, that is around 20 minutes, and also inclusive of the question and answer session also. The objectives of the paper, this paper that is philosophical reflections on some important dimensions of yoga in Jaina philosophy with special reference to thoughts of Acharya Haribhadra. The focus, the objective, as I've stated in my abstract too, is to analyze the important dimensions of yoga in Jaina philosophy with special reference to Acharya Haribhadra. And second is to establish the significance of Acharya Haribhadra's approach on yoga in the modern age. So I'm just trying to appreciate as I progress that we are so fortunate that we are able to study, we are able to practice yoga, and it is essentially important that we try to appreciate, we try to understand, we try to integrate the dimensions of yoga in by different thinkers, by different schools of thought. And so the layout of my research paper is the first section of my paper focuses on the philosophy of yoga in context to Jaina religion and Jaina philosophy. So there's a brief review because the topic is very vast, but I've tried to focus on some important dimensions. Second part of my paper is Acharya Haribhadra's contribution to yoga, a general approach. Third is some unique dimensions on yoga, Acharya Haribhadra's perspective. So I've taken some dimension from a particular text and I've tried to reflect upon how Haribhadra's approach on yoga is unique. The fourth dimension is significance of Acharya Haribhadra's approach on yoga. So here we are trying to focus that whatever we are trying to reflect upon, it is not just merely theoretical. As we always ask this question, what next? So I've tried to suggest something in this what next aspect of it. And the fifth dimension is on reflections on Acharya Haribhadra's viewpoint on yoga, exploration of research initiatives. So as we progress on the path of yoga, I personally feel there's also a need to strengthen research, to explore the unexplored areas about which I am going to focus upon it. I now begin my presentation. When we look at the philosophy of yoga, the Jaina religion and Jaina philosophy, a brief review states, when we look at the history of yoga from this context, that the integration of philosophy of yoga with realm of religion that emerged in India is something which is inseparable. My point here is, when we look at religions in India, they are having that kind of a connect, where when we focus on these religious dimensions, it is actually trying to focus on the very niche areas of yoga, because when we try to focus on the religious life, we try to say that we come closer to a yogic life as well. It is also focusing on human values. So it is not just about focusing on religion as a principle, but integrating it. And that's why when we look at the philosophy of yoga in Jaina religion and in context to Jaina philosophy, we see that there is an initiative to expand the realm of reflection, to provide direction for a life which can become more focused towards purity, and it can progress towards liberation. As we progress ahead with this philosophy of yoga, which is also prominently seen when we try to look at the Jaina philosophy, we also see that the core contents of Jaina religion also try to reflect upon the dimensions or dynamics of yoga, such as when we look at right faith, right knowledge, and right conduct. It is not just a particular dimension, but if you start looking deeper into it, we try to see that it is a progress towards a life which is in context to the ordinary, and also hinting towards progressing towards the extraordinary. So in this sense, when you try to study the philosophy of yoga, we also get a glimpse that it tries to reflect upon elimination of impurities. And when you look at the Jaina approach, it tries to, in different contexts, tries to focus on the dimension of introspection, on dimension of awareness, on the dimension of reducing these impurities. And it leads in this context towards austerity and its practice, meditation, and what have you. So in this context, the core content of Jaina philosophy, Jaina religion, when we try to look at it, there is already an established dimension of the ethical and moral approach. And when we look at this dimension, we see the genesis, where the focus is on diversity, the focus is on improving the quality of life, the focus is to refine life approach, and the key word, as we could say, is transformation and liberation. In fact, when we look at religions in India, we try to see that this particular perspective is so much there in almost all religions. But then the question is, why is it that we have forgotten perhaps to understand it, to extend it, or to be more religious in this particular sense. When we look at Acharya Haribhadra's approach, we see in this approach a scholarly connect, a deeper dimension of the religious perspective, plus a concern for the future. So in this sense, when we look at religion, because I come from the discipline of philosophy, whenever we are trying to look at that part of religion, which is not religion actually, where we are totally more ritualistic without reason, where we also are vulnerable to becoming fanatics, where we try to pretend to be religious, but we are not. And when we look at Acharya Haribhadra's approach, there is a philosopher in him, and that philosopher is trying to convey the essence of that critical thought, that essence of what actually is that awareness, and that essence of what spiritual progress, development is all about. So from philosophical angle, if I look at this, I can certainly see a serious process of deconstruction and reconstruction in this way, where we are trying to say that this particular dimension of yoga, when you see, and the reflections of religion, when you see in Haribhadra's work, these are actually traveling beyond just telling that this should be done. In fact, when you try to study Acharya Haribhadra's works, we are able to see that there is a kind of a responsibility which is given to every person who wants to progress on the path of yoga, to be more independent in thought, to accept the responsibility to transform, and to ask some vital questions which have the potentiality in us to change. Unless we ask some tough questions to our own selves, we will not change. We all agree on this, I'm sure, that there are certain things in each one of us which just continue over the years because there is a lot of rigidity, there is a lot of preconceived idea. And when we become a part of a group, we also try to practice some prejudices. We don't check our thoughts, and this leads to problems. So when we say that when we are on the path of yoga, yoga is not just trying to practice for some hours, but how can we have yoga approach in our thought, word, and action is what I feel Acharya Haribhadra is trying to focus. Acharya Haribhadra Suri, when we look at the history of this great scholar, it was around 8th century, that we get a glimpse that he was a scholar who composed more than 100 works on different topics in Sanskrit and Prakrit. And when we look at the major contribution, he wrote on philosophy, yoga, and ethics. We look at the narrative tales, and what interests us today is the valuable contribution to the comparative study of yoga. This is very interesting because when we look at the tradition of India, especially scholarly tradition of India, we've always seen that there is a lot of coexistence in thought which has taken place. And when we look at this coexistence, the concern that how the rest of the thought can be extended. And this I see when we try to analyze Haribhadra's thoughts. This is something prominent which is seen. When we look at some important writings on yoga, which Acharya Haribhadra has tried to reflect, these are very deeply philosophical. Yoga Bindu, Yoga Drishti Samuchaya, Yogashtaka, Yoga Vimikshana. And when we look at these works, for example, it is not possible to cover all the details of all the texts, but some highlights. For example, in Yoga Vimikshika, Yoga, as all religious performance that connect with moksha, provides direction. So whenever there is also anything which is followed as religious, it is helping us to progress towards liberation. So here it implies that religious performance should not just be religious performance. Sometimes they are very empty, but these religious performance also should have a lot of genuine dimension in it, whereby there is actually some kind of an awareness which improves. In Yoga Bindu, he tries to focus on the dimensions of yoga, where he focuses on bhavana, dhyana, samatha, and its connect to moksha. When we look at the Yoga Drishti Samuchaya, there is also a very interesting point there. The elimination of unwholesome tendencies and progressing towards nurturing wholesome tendencies. If you look at the thoughts of great thinkers, where when we look at the Indian approach, we've always been guided, directed through this process of introspection, through this process of moving from that which is gross to that which is refined. Haribhadra's work tries to reflect upon three jewels as the pathway, and when he's trying to focus different dimensions of the Jaina philosophy in general and the philosophy of transformation in particular, he is not trying to propagate religion. He is not trying to state that this is what is in this particular thing, it is only. I feel that there is a concern when we look at it from the dimension of evolution in context to human nature, and when we look at the mind and dimensions, Haribhadra's approach becomes more relevant. In Yogashtaka, as a text, he focuses on the interconnect of three noble attributes which connect with moksha. What I have also tried to do is I try to also look at Haribhadra's work, and it states that in yoga, he saw a tradition that emphasized on practice rather than theory. The practice of yoga, as most of you are aware, that it is not how much I know about yoga which is important. And it is certainly not a very agreeable thing that when people say that there is a little pride when people say, I practice yoga and I do it, and people want to say about it. What Haribhadra is trying to focus when he's trying to say about practice, he's trying to say about how we are able to grow from within, how we are able to really bring forward that change, and not just at the form level, but at the content level. When we try to focus on exploration of various yoga schools, what he has tried to do, as I stated earlier, that he's tried to study different schools of yoga, and he's tried to have a very, very open-minded approach. Unlike today, when we see that there are some schools of yoga where we see that there is some kind of a attachment with that school of thought so much that we become very rigid. We don't want to look at the other school. Our development of the human person is totally of this discussion, which should not be the case. So, in Haribhadra's thought is a language of universality that is focused on the commitment to the highest goal of Jainism, while at the same time, there is also a respect for other traditions. I think in the right sense of the word, this is the most interesting perspective, which is philosophically very enriching, where when we talk about the overall development of a person, then when we talk about coexistence, when we talk about inclusiveness in understanding what yoga is, Haribhadra's work becomes relevant in that sense. When we look at the philosophical approach It is non-sectarian. It focuses on the praxis dimension. And Haribhadra is trying to emphasize on reflection, which should be more deeper. Relooking, that is just because it is your tradition, it is your religion, does not mean there's absolutely everything fine. It has to be relooked, refined, and this will lead to realization. I have also decided that I'll just take one example from his text, some part of it, because this also will perhaps give the listeners a glimpse to those who have acquaintance with Acharya Haribhadra's work. And this is just a quick reference. When we look at the analysis of some important dimensions on yoga in Acharya Haribhadra's Yoga Drishti Samuchaya, there are 5 points which we see when we look at it. For example, he suggests to read holy books but refine actions. Means what? There is a tendency amongst people that they appear to read holy books, but there is no connection in their actions. So he is trying to stress there should be a continuity in what you read, to understand, and what you do, which is so essential today when we look at the world where there is erosion of human values and when we see this gap. Second is diversity in thought and action. So not that everybody will think in the same way as we like them to think. Respect diversity in thought and action, which is also essential today when the world is moving and when we see that so much of discrimination taking place. The true yoga becomes meaningful. He also focuses on compassion and care. So he says that for compassion, there is no need for any logic. So the purpose of yoga, one of the purposes of yoga can we be 24/7 compassionate? Can we not just have preferred compassion to some people or even to human beings, animals, and the world in which we live? Objectivity in study of religious text is also essential, because again and again you see that objectivity is what is trying to focus. That's why I stated that there's a philosopher and a scholar like Acharya Haribhadra is trying to reflect upon, and the focus on nurturing ethical perfection. Now, if you see, most of us feel that we are ethically all perfect. And that is the problem where we don't move towards elevation. So here the focus is on nurturing ethical perfection. So the $1 million question comes, what is ethical perfection? In what way I should go there? And so it also leads to understanding who we are and also understanding who we can become. The second dimension of thought, which is focusing on yoga by intention, yoga by scriptures, and yoga by self-assertion. In the threefold yoga for Haribhadra, in Yoga Drishti Samuchaya, he says that he tries to focus on, in a very minute way, the human nature. That is, there are some people who are very keen to read text. However, he states, reading and understanding are not the same. So you may feel like reading a scripture, but reading does not mean understanding, which means that to read, people don't want to read, but it's good to read. But just because you read doesn't imply understanding. So Haribhadra focuses on the gaps between the two. In yoga by precept, Shastra, the precept yoga conveys a willingness to live life as per the guidance achieved from the scriptures. He says that one who has faith in the scriptural text is cautious to the best of his ability, is able to grasp the core contents of the yoga scriptures. But Haribhadra states, he attempts to hint that even knowing scriptures by meaning necessarily does not contribute to understanding about life of any possibility of spiritual transformation. There are some, we see that when they are so engrossed in scriptural study, they think that they have spiritually become very elevated, or sometimes they get pride out of it. So this is somewhere a very, very interesting approach, which says that it does not mean that if you have understood the meaning of that scripture, necessarily means a reflection of life where you will become very qualitatively more advanced in your thought and action. It is not that kind of an equation. And when we look at the yoga by self-exertion, samarthya, according to Haribhadra, scriptures can only show the path leading to moksha, but they cannot convey the relevant details about in what way we have to do. So there's a total reliance on scriptures, which some people do, which is not recommended. And so here a very interesting point, he states his emphasis is on cultivating intuitive understanding, which is essential to enhance spiritual development. So when we look at this reading of the scriptural text or the interest, it is all external. But he says that nevertheless, we have something within which also should be improved, which also should be, nurtured in the right way, and that is intuition. So development of intuitive understanding takes place most often when one's spiritual development gradually manifests. The last part, and I will just take 3 minutes because I know there is a time frame. Haribhadra's 8 Yoga Drishti. There are many scholars who have tried to look at these 8 Drishtis and also tried to relate it to Patanjali's Yama, Niyama, Asana. But I have my own way of looking at it, and I do not see that kind of a similarity which some scholars have seen, but that is another discussion topic. I'm just going to suggest that when Haribhadra tries to focus on spiritual development leading to perfection and emancipation, he talks about the dimension of the 8 drishtis, yoga drishtis, such as the mitra, the soul, very faint and instant enlightenment. So it accumulates the seed of yoga, which eventually fructifies towards emancipation. So here it is said that the soul is free from the envy of the meritorious. It gets opportunity for spiritual development. So if you observe, what Haribhadra is trying to do is giving a clarity of what exactly is spiritual development. The haziness or the elusive aspect of spiritual development is gradually, he's trying to remove it. And he also reminded of Hello.
Hello, madam.
Hello.
Yes,
Her
yes,
voice
yes.
is not audible, it seems.
Am I audible now?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes, madam.
Yeah. I do not know which point maybe you all heard and then it got disconnected, but I'm just stating about the 8 drishtis. And these drishtis are Mitra, Kara, Bala, Mitra, Stira, Kanta, Prabha, and Para. So because of time constraint, because I would like to maybe if I have a little time when we have the Q&A, but dimensions. We try to say that when we look at the second drishti of Tara, the enlightened becomes a bit distinct. And the soul is capable of some sort of self-restraint. So when we are trying
Hello. Madam, I think we have lost your voice.
No,
No,
am I
not yet.
audible?
No, not quite.
Acha. Uh, I can listen to you. I will reconnect.
Yes, yes,
Now
now it is audible.
Now it is audible. On and off it is
Audible.
going.
Okay. Okay.
Now it is
Okay.
fine.
So I will quickly. I hope I'm audible.
Yes,
Madam,
yes.
can you try
No?
putting your video off? Maybe.
Yeah. So, so when we look at the eight, we're trying to focus on the second issue, where we are trying to focus on para. The soul is now desperate and does not indulge in evil activities so frequently. It aspires for spiritual progress. The third drishti is of Bala. Here the enlightenment becomes more distinct and there hello. Am I audible?
No, madam.
Hello.
No. No.
Oh. I'm just going, maybe I'll be audible from there. If I'm audible, I'll keep talking.
Oh, okay. Okay. We can hear a few words in between, but not in a flow.
I'll change location wherever I'm sitting.
Sure. Sure. Please take your time.
Yeah, is it good now? Hello?
Yes, better.
Better. Okay, thank you. So I will not get into the 8 yoga drishti because I will, if there are questions, I will focus on that. So here we are trying to look at the significance of Acharya Haribhadra's approach on yoga, which is on focusing awareness patterns as I try to look at his thoughts, especially whatever I have tried to focus with the Yoga Drishti Samuchaya. Is also trying to nurture critical thinking skills and is also trying to convey the harmony which is essential between what we think, what we say, and what we do. So when we are on the path of yoga, one cannot just say I'm very yogic. Very saying that I'm yogic itself is going against the dimension of yoga, because there is also something like humility which one nurtures when one is on the path of yoga. Moving ahead, when I'm trying to focus on my second last slide, I personally feel that there's a need to focus on research in context to Acharya Haribhadra's approach, not just because I have tried to present his thoughts, but I personally feel that there is a need to look at yoga in a more detailed way, as Acharya Haribhadra has done with lot of commitment and study. So when we look at the dimension of Haribhadra's thoughts centuries back, and when we see its relevance today, I feel there is a need to look at Acharya Haribhadra's approach, by which the aim and approach of yoga can be more fine-tuned, and it has a realm of global approach, also peace, and we talk about the non-sectarian, which is also a very essential dimension of Acharya Haribhadra's thoughts. So nurturing critical thinking, focusing on clarity in thought, and developing calmness. Three aspects of Acharya's approach. And to conclude, may we be blessed with the best, and the focus should be on not only talking or contemplating on yoga, but if I have to reflect on Haribhadra's approach, we have to practice it now and then. Thank you very much to everybody.
Thank you, Dr. Vaidya, for a very interesting lecture. And in spite of technical difficulties, we could actually sense your earnestness in the thoughts that you wanted
Thank
to
you.
convey to us. And you have really introduced a different way of looking at textual knowledge. Thank you very much for that. Now we move on. As announced, all the questions we will take at the end of the session. Now we move on to the second paper in this session, which will be presented by Dr. Sridhar Iyer. I will introduce him in brief. Dr. Sridhar Iyer is at present senior Sanskrit teacher at Parle Vidyalaya English Medium School. Not only senior, I will add one more word to it, enthusiastic, senior and enthusiastic teacher. He has done his MA in Vedanta and also PhD from Department of Sanskrit, University of Mumbai. He is also a regular visiting faculty at our department. He is associated with various institutions and platforms such as Kala Sadan, Indica, in various capacities such as content writer, lecturer, stage anchor, and so on. He is always very closely associated with all the academic endeavors of our department. I request Dr. Sridhar Iyer to start his presentation. Thank you.
Stve Patanjalim Vyasam Shankaram cha Munitrayam Kartru Sutrasya Bhashyasya Kramat Vivaranasya cha. Good afternoon, everyone. My pronounced chairperson of the session, Dr. Rajeshwar Mukherjee. My co-paper readers, special thanks to Dr. Shakuntala Gowde, Head Department of Sanskrit, Ramakrishna Bajaj, Sanskrit Bhavan, for giving me a place among the illuminaries. Namaskar to my teacher, Dr. Madhavi Narsale. Greetings to all present. My topic is Yoga Maya, an evolution of yogic techniques and practices in Shakta tradition. And today, what is really a lucky day, because today, the 21st of February, is the birthday of the mother of Arvind Ashram. And my paper is, let me admit very frankly at the beginning, my paper is an amateur attempt which focuses on certain terms common for both Yoga Shastra and Tantra Shastra. The first connection, which is quite obvious, is Kundalini, which lies at the base below the Muladhara, shaped as a kunda, and deliberating on it further is the awakening and a guided passage of the Shakti in the kunda, popularly known as Kundalini Shakti. The process or technique of graded awakening, guiding its passage to the Sahasrara to the different level of chakras and back, is where Yoga Shastra helps the Tantric yogin in process called as Antasadhana. It is a Brahmanishta Paramahamsa of the highest discipline that this process of Antasadhana, enabled by the yoga practice of Antarmukhavastha, is undertaken for the sadhaka returns back to the mortal world, breathing normally like any other mortal. Having stated, it is here that I would like to deliberate on certain terms common to both the Shastras. First, the title of my paper is Yoga Maya. The term is a deliberate usage of a compound. A compound is a word where two come together and become one and function as one. Jiva Brahma Aikyam. I have heavily relied on original sources such as Vivaranam of Bhagavad Pada Shankara on the Bhashya of Vyasa which is the commentary on the sutras of Patanjali. Having dwelt deeply into the study of the sect of Upanishads titled Yoga Upanishads with the commentary of Upanishad Brahma Yogini, has studied the rare Darshana work of the Shaktas, namely Hayagriva Shakta Darshana, published by Mahomohopadhyaya Vasudeva Shastri publication, have looked into numerous Tantra, Agama, Damara works for my source material. Yoga is popularly known in Tantra or any Upasana circle as Ashtanga Yoga. That is, it is composed of 8 limbs. Hayagriva in the first pada of 13th chapter says, Yama Niyamasana Prana Ayama Pratyahara Dharana Dhyana Savikalpa Samadhyo Ashtanga Ashtangani Yogasya. All the terms are deliberated and explained in the works of Yoga Sutra by both Sutrakara, Bhashyakara, and Vivaranakara. These are the prerequisites for any sadhaka of Sri Vidya or of Vedanta to the ultimate Shri, that is Brahma Shri or Parabrahma. For as said by Acharya, moksha is not a destination but an awareness. Awareness within the being, known that I am the being, Aham Brahmasmi. And this process was well demonstrated by the Shankaracharyas of the Dakshinamnaya. The recording has stopped. Should I continue? Yeah. And this was well demonstrated by the Shankaracharyas of Dakshinamnaya Sharada Pitham, especially Jagadguru Shri Shri Chandrasekhara Bharati Mahaswami and his disciple Jagadguru Shri Shri Abhinava Vidyatirtha Mahaswami. So this is the tradition, practice. Acharya used to go into long spells of Antarmukhavastha and also used to come back and perform the customary Sri Chakra Puja. Now, what is the Antarmukhavastha? That the Samaya cult or section of the Shakta, after a certain degree of physical upasana, turn introvert. They visualize the deity within and elevate to such a state of being the deity, that is total loss of the self into evolving of the Devi Bhava. Kapalantar Manu Nesya Tishte Milita Lochanaha Dhyato Antarvyoma Ya Divya Taya Devaha Prakashati Pranadi further Pranadi Samucharat Yutanti Shunya Bhavana Shunya Paraya Shakyam Shunyatamo Ati Yogirat. Thus he becomes a yogi, signifying the correct connotation to the term Pranashto Vayu Sancharat Yutanti Shunya Bhavana Shunya Paraya Shaktya Shunyatama Tamiti Yogirat. The entire movement of breath, as told by our keynote address, as told by our inaugural president, Sri Penna sir, the entire movement of breath dissolves. There is no deliberated or guided movement of the vital breath. The sadhaka attains absolute dissolution into the absolute parashakti. As I mentioned, we will deliberate on the terms. Let us look into the 2 terms here: Antaryaga or Antarmukhavastha and Yogi. We begin with the term Yogi. The Shakta Darshana begins the 3rd pada of the 13th chapter and it says, Chatushtaya Vairagya Sampanno Yoga Adhikari. So there is an Adhikari here for Yoga, Shakta Yoga. That is the one who has attained or developed Vairagya to the class of 4. That is Striyo, Annam, Panam, Aishwarya, Vihi, Chatvari, Vastuni, Chatushtaya Shabdena, Abhipretani, Tad Vishaye, Vitaragaseva, Yogadhikaraha. Such a type of Vairagya yogi is of 3 types. Vairagya yogi, Tridha, Hata Raj Mantra yogi iti. That is 3 types: Hatha yogi, Raja yogi, and Mantra yogi. I am focusing on Mantra yogi. Hayagriva says, my Mantra Margan, Mantra yogi, because this involves a technique of mental exercise with an awareness and a good knowledge of the preliminary yoga procedure of yoga procedure of asana, pranayama, etc. It is a technique. It is this technique the sadhaka identifies the Shakti within, taps it to slowly awaken from its resting pot or kunda with a deliberate chanting and contemplating of mantra and devata within. Thus, Hayagriva says, Omkaram Adhare, Hakaram Swadhisthane, Re from Manipure, Ikaram Anahati, Bindum Vishuddham, Dhvanim Ajnam, Sakaram Mayam Brahmarandri, कुंडलो ऊर्ध्वनयनम अधस्थापनात्मकं ध्यानम परजीवैकतां प्रति संवित उत्पत्ति समाधि. The Trishiki Brahmanopanishad in Mantra Bhaga says, which is commented by Upanishad Brahma Yogi, it says, Ahascha Ratrim Paksham cha Masam Ritu Ayanam Antarmuko Vijaniya Kalabheda Samadhi Samahitam. Is obvious to phases within, while external factors do not affect him. Such is he a Brahma Yogin. He sees everything within. He sees the phases, the celestial occurrences of eclipse, the natural phenomena of new moon, all within, and feels the entire Brahmanda within himself. I will deliberate on this part a bit later. As for the most essential requirement is the yoga process or pranayama, nadi shuddhi, and asana. These three alone I am considering as it is very important for my paper. Nadi, veins, technically they carry blood to the various parts of the body. They can be compared to a Mahanadi with many small rivers, small rivers, revolutes, stream, etc. This is as simply put for easy catch. Apart from this, they carry vital air, known as vital breaths, which are responsible for the functioning of this Karana Deha. It is possible to regulate various functions of the body with a process called Nadi Shuddhi. This is an internal process. The external process followed in Tantra being one, Bhuta Shuddhi or Atma Shuddhi. I will focus on Atma Shuddhi, which begins with Pranayama and follows Nadi Shuddhi. Yamaishya Niyamaishchaiva Asanaishcha Susanyataha Nadi Shuddhim cha Kritva Adau Pranayamam Samachari. Hence, we will begin with Pranayama. What it means according the Yoga Sutra defines Pranayama as Shwasa Prashwasa Yor Gati Vichchedaha Pranayamaha. It says in its Sadhana Adhyaya, Sutra 49, it says that Shwasa Prashwasa, the moment of the Shwasa and Shwasa is Pranayama. In the later Upanishad, it is said in the Rechanam Puranam Vayohu Shodhanam Rechanam Tata Chaturbihi Kleshanam Vayohu Pranayam Udiryati. Rechanam Purakam Muktva Kumbi Karanameva Yaha Karoti Trishu Kaleshu Naivasi Tasya Durlabham. Nothing is impossible for such a sadhaka who does his Rechanam and Puranam, and Kumbhanam. Pranayamam iti prokto re. The Darshanopanishad says Pranayamam iti prokto recha puraka kumbhakaihi. Now, a question arises: how many times should one undertake this pranayama? The Upanishads have an answer. It says Pratar Madhyam Dine Sayam Ardharatrecha Kumbhakan Shane Ashiti Paryantam Chaturvaram Samabhyase. The Trishiki Upanishad says that you should undertake it 4 times in a day and 80 times. This fourth pranayama, that's Ardharatra at midnight, is special to both the Shaiva and to the Shakta Tantra practitioners. Pranayamena Chittam Shuddham Bhavati, says the Darshana Upanishad. So for Chitta Shuddhi, you should undertake pranayama. By repeated practice, one attains the state of yogin. And it states, if one does not understand the true knowledge of yoga, his bhava or emotions do not succeed. Yoga jnane na vidyate, yoga jnani na vidyate, tasya bhavo na siddhyati. Shika pranamya, shika pra. I'm not taking this because it is for the Mundi Sannyasi. Next, we turn to Nadi Shuddhi. It is a process of knowing, understanding, directing, regulating the vital breath. Bhagavad Pada Shankara, the beginning of his Prapanchasara Tantra, says in the Pratama Patala, verse 79-80, followed by 81 to 85, where he mentions the different nadis. He says, Urdhvam tu maruta nunnum तस्मादपि फलद्वयात् उभयात्मिक्य अधोवृत्ता नाडी दीर्घा भवेत् रुजुः अवाङ्मुखी सा तस्य च पक्षद्वये द्वयम् नाड्यः तत्सन्धिबन्धाः स्युः सप्तान्यो नाड्यो. Now here the word sandhibandha, sandhi, and is going to deliberate. What is the Sandhi of Nadis which the Acharya has used? Well, the Pashupata Upanishad, commented again by Upanishad Brahma Yogin, I am taking that for reference. Nodakair Jayate Sandhya, na mantro charane na tu, Sandhau Jivatmanor Aikyam Sa Sandhya, Sadbhit Uchyate. Sandhya is not what we perform, Prata Sandhya, Madhyamika Sandhya, and Saim Sandhya, but this is the true Sandhya where of the Jivatmanayor Aikyam. Now let me proceed to the Antaryaga concept. The Darshana Upanishad speaks of Nadis, Nadi Shuddhikaran, Nadi Sanchara, regulation of the vital breaths, and concept of Nadi Sankramana leading to Uttarayana, Dakshinayana, Grahanam, that is Surya Grahanam and Chandra Grahanam, and Amavasya, and that all occurs within the self of the sadhaka, the body, the karana deha of the sadhaka. Here you can find the entire human anatomy with related to the presence of veins. That is, the Upanishad gives us a detailed insight view of the location, shape, color, function of the nadis. I have taken only that which is relevant to the paper to draw similarity in Tantra practice of Antaryaga. Pingalaya yadayam tu vayoho sankaramanam tu yat tat uttarayanam proktam muni veda vedanti bihi. There or wind from the Pingala, that is prana vayu, it mixes into Ida, it is called as Uttarayan. The reverse, that is Vidayaha Pingalayam tu prana sankaramanam muni dakshinayanam iti uttam. It is Amavasya, when the prana which flows in Sushumna interjects the union of the flow of breath in and from Ida to Pingala. Ida Pingalayo Sandhim Yada Prana Samagatah Amavasya Tada Prokta Dehe Deha Vritam Vara. It does not stop here. It mentions the two solstices, that is Vishu. When prana enters Mooladhara, it is the first Vishu, that is Dakshinayana Tula Vishu. And when it enters into the Sahasrara, it is the Chaitra Vishu or Makara Vishu. In and Yogin, the Shvasa, Uchvasa is the Mantri Sankramana within the Yogi. Mantri Sankramana which takes place. Chandragrahana occurs when prana of the Ida enters into the Kundalini, and similarly, it is Surya Grahanam when the prana from the Pingala enters into the Kundalini. Hence, the Lalita Sahasranama identifies the Prana Shakti, also referred to as Punmani or Para within, calls it here as Praneshwari, Pranadhatri, and Panchashat Pita Rupini. Peter, this is again taken for deliberation when the confluence of the different vital breaths across nadis and parts of the body, they give rise to the vital centers. These very vital centers are presided by the Matrukas, and externally they become the Anganyasa which the sadhaka undertakes. Acharya in the Saundarya puts this concept as Mahim Mooladhari. Mahim Mooladhari Kamapi Manipuri Hutavaham स्थितं स्वादिष्टानि हृदि मरुतमाकाशमुपरि मनोऽपि भ्रूमध्ये सकलमपि भित्त्वा कुलपतं सहस्रारे पत्नी सखरगसि. That is, he says that when the process of antaryaga, with the identification of gross and subtle elements, understanding, attaining the ultimate, passing across the rupture into the Sahasrara. The same is told by, reflected by the Mandala Brahmana Upanishad, and wherein it says, the one who understands this is a yogi. It identifies the Sri Chakra within the body. It says, Navachakram Shadadharam Trilaksham Yoma Panchakam Samvegeta Najanati Sa Yogi Namato Bhavet. And thus it clearly establishes the relation of Tantra and Yoga. The sadhaka, having realized is mukta and becomes one for moksha according to Shankara. Again, I reiterate, it's moksha according to Bhagavad Pada Shankara is not a goal, a destination, but is being. Various asanas are spoken, that is 12 asanas are mentioned by Vyasa commenting on the Yoga Sutra, which is there in Sadhana Pada, verse 46. Stiram Sukham Asanam. Sutrakara has given only this much. The Bhashyakara Vyasa says that the 12 asanas which are Padmasana, Bhadrasana, Virasana, Swastikasanam, Dandasanam, Sopashrayasanam, Paryankasanam, Krauncha Nishadanasanam, Hasti Nishadanasanam, Ushta Nishadasanam, Samasamstanasanam, Stira Sukhasanam. And Shankara elaborately explains in his Vivarana Bhashya on the Bhashya of Vyasa, like a modern day yoga instructor. Thus, in Tantra, apart from this, we have the mention of physical asanas to be owned by us. We have to possess our own asanas. And asana jaya is very much important. Asanam vijitam yena jitam tena jagat rayam, says the Trishiki Brahmana Upanishad. So every Tantra sadhaka carries his own asana with him. Thus, pranayama, antaryaga, theory concept are practiced by the yoga sadhaka for attaining oneness. Yoga sanjayate jnanam, jnanat yoga pravartate, yoga jnana paro nityam, sa yogi na pranashyati. So let me I have concluded my paper. Let me conclude it with a verse to the goddess Meenakshi by Durvasa, which carries the entire essence. Ai Anandavalli, Amrita Karatali, Adi Shakti Parai, Maya Swarupi, Spatika Manimayi, Ma Madangi Shadangi, Jnani, Jnanaswarupi, Nalina Parimali, Nada Omkara Rupi, Yogi, Yogasanasta, Bhuvana Vashakari, Saundari, Ai Namaste. This is from the Yoga Meenakshi Stotram of Durvasa. With this, I conclude my paper and thank you so much to the Department of Sanskrit, my teachers, the head of the department, and others for giving me this opportunity. Thank you once again.
Thank you, Dr. Sridhar, for a very interesting paper. He explored a very unique dimension of yoga, namely mantra yoga, which is less talked about and people are very, very curious about it. We always talk about Hatha Yoga and Raja Yoga, but mantra yoga is not that much talked about. So thanks a lot for throwing some light on it. And it was a challenge. It's a very vast topic. So it was a challenge for you to accommodate some important elements, which you have done very successfully. Thanks a lot once again. Now we proceed to the third and the last paper in this session. This paper will be read by Dr. Meenal Katarnikar. I will introduce her. Dr. Meenal Katarnikar is presently professor at the Department of Philosophy, University of Mumbai. She has a wide research experience, having guided 18 PhD and 16 MPhil students. Interreligious interfaith dialogue is the area of her special interest. She was invited several times to Rome and Philippines for related academic programs. She is nominated on the editorial boards of Paramarsha, a philosophy journal published by Savitribai Phule, Pune University. She has authored 3 books and more than 55 research articles in reputed journals. I request you, madam, to present your paper. Dr. Meenal Katarnik.
Thank you, Professor Shobha Sahasrabuddhe, for introducing me in this manner. Am I audible?
Yes, madam. Yes.
For inviting me and presenting my views on the topic Jaina Yoga. I am going to present it through my PowerPoint presentation because looking at the time constraints, it's better I stick to the slides. And Shobha madam, how much time, what time I should finish my talk?
30 minutes.
50 minutes?
30 minutes.
How much time? Sorry?
Half an hour.
30 minutes. Oh,
Yes.
enough. Okay. So the topic that I have chosen according to Jainism, aspects and conceptual network. Now, self being into the field of philosophy for such a long time, and that too in Jainism for a considerable time, I feel it very essential to know and discuss with people the aspects of Jaina Yoga. Before me, there were 2 scholarly presentations, and they have already prepared the background for the scholarly listening of the audience. And one of the papers was about Jaina Yoga. We have observed during the long period of Jainism, almost 2 millennia of Jainism, is that Jaina Yoga is not just one concept. Something which long has traveled a lot. In 18th century, Upadhyaya Yashoji, who is a successor of the great thinker Bhadra in 10th century, Chandra in 11th century. So Yashoda defines yoga as all practices that are desirable because of their association with literature. So obviously, yoga has its connection to courage. And if someone reads this definition, this impression yoga is a part of liberation. But let me tell you.
Madam, I think we have lost your connection.
Yes, we cannot see you, madam.
Yes. Hello,
Madam?
Meenal madam. We cannot see you. Yeah, we can't see or hear you. No, sir. Mukherjee, sir. No. Even to us, it is not visible. Let us wait. Some technical issue, it seems.
Am I audible?
Yes, now a bit. But we can't see you.
Now I will not begin my video. No, I will not start my video because
Okay.
there is bandwidth issue.
Fine, fine.
So is it okay?
Audio is
I don't
better.
start my
Audio
video.
is better.
Yes. I want the audience to see my PPT. So I'm more interested in showing you the PPT, not
Sure,
my face. Okay. Yeah. So I was here and I was talking about the textual meaning of the term yoga. in the beginning of the Jaina tradition. It says, or the definition says, the activity of body, mind, and speech. So this body, mind, and speech, mana, karma, yoga, that is one of the important causes of. So exactly opposite meaning. So initially or in the beginning of Jainism meant the cause of bondage, and now it has concept of yoga. Maybe the interactions with Patanjali yoga or other meditation techniques in India, that it has come to the meaning of the cause of liberation. So this journey is very interesting, and all of them, all the concepts of yoga carry the title of Jaina Yoga. So it is interesting to see this meaning of Jaina Yoga, but I have not chosen the entire topic of yoga. I will be talking about only meditation, because either it is the cause of bondage or is it the way of liberation. The concept of meditation plays very important role in the mechanism of bondage and liberation, as Jainas articulate. The twofold process, the stoppage of karma inflow and the shedding away of karmas, is prescribed. And meditation is one of the important components of this process of samvara and nirjara. So let us go to the meditation according to Jainism. And here we go. Yeah. So definition of meditation. Tattvartha Sutra, the first sutra of Jainism, defines meditation. I'm sure all of you can see the screen. Uttama Sanhanana Seka Ekagra Chinta Nirodho Dhyanam Antar Muhurtat. Fixing the attention of mind on some one object on the part of a person possessing a superior type of bone structure is meditation. It lasts up to one muhurta, that is, it lasts for less than one muhurta. See, there is a definition given, and as we all can see, it contains the concept of meditation. That means what it is to talk about as meditation, physical requirement of the person doing meditation, and the maximum duration of meditation. Now let me say one muhurta is in today's language it is 48 minutes. So meditation is something that is less than 48 minutes. That is maximum limit of meditation is 48 minutes for this idea. Moreover, the description of meditation and the definition that we have just now read, it applies to the sadhakas and not the siddhas or omniscience. That is technically called as chadmastha in the Jaina tradition. So it is only up to that state that meditation on the highest stage of spiritual development. Now, what are the implications of this view that we will certainly discuss? Very interesting part of Jaina concept of meditation is the classification of meditation. After defining meditation as we have just now read, it is said, Artha, Raudra, Dharmya, Shuklani. So meditation is classified into 4 types: sorrowful, that is Artha; cruel, Raudra; virtuous, that is Dharmya; and pure. These 4 are the varieties of meditation. Now this is very unusual, and Jainas are always very non-essentialist about defining and elaborating any concept, and they also synthesize more than 2 approaches in their philosophical discussions while talking about concept. So meditation goes beyond
We can't hear you, madam. Audio connection has gone again, it seems.
Am I there? Can you hear me?
Yeah, there was a
Yes.
gap. Now it is coming
Again,
again.
yes,
Yes.
yes, yes.
Yes, please
Today is a
continue.
Testing time for me also. Yeah, yeah. So out of these 4 subtypes of meditation, the first 2, that is Artha and Raudra, are spontaneous and they focus on the objects that are not suitable for the spiritual progress. These are also known to be evil types of meditation, so worth discarding. The last 2 are noble types of meditation, conducive for, of course, spiritual liberation, and hence the spiritual aspirants must cultivate those capacities. So one can say that Jainas are a little psychological or more commonsensical about elaborating set of definition. Artha Dhyana, that is sorrowful meditation, involves preoccupation with something that is unpleasant. Raudra Dhyana is cruel concentration. Dharma Dhyana is known to be virtuous concentration. It entails contemplation and it leads to the pursuit of omniscience, which is the next type of meditation. That is Shukla Dhyana, which is a pure meditation and it entails the concentration on pure consciousness. These details and what are the situations that can be called as either Artha or Rudra or Dharma or Shukla Dhyanas, these we can read in the great text of Jainas, that is Tattvartha Sutra. In chapter 9, from verses 7 to 44, they discuss and describe the subtypes of meditation. Apart from these 4 subvarieties, there are 4 other varieties which have been discussed in the 2 texts, one from the Digambara lineage and the other from the Shvetambara lineage. The Digambara lineage text is by Acharya Shubhachandra and the text is Jinarnava, and Yoga Shastra by Hemachandra, Acharya Hemachandra, is from the Shvetambara lineage. They talk about 4 preliminary meditations which help the person for Shukla Dhyana. That is the highest form of meditation. So Pindastha Dhyana, Padastha Dhyana, Rupastha Dhyana and Rupatita Dhyana. But as the scholars observe, overall in Jaina tradition, there is very scant description and discussion on the very important concept of meditation as such. And the concepts like pranayama or kundalini or the concentration of chakras that have not been even mentioned in the Jaina concept of meditation. Somehow, for them, Tri Ratna, that is Samyak Jnana, Darshan and Charitra, that is more important than any other activity. And meditation is only, I'm saying only, because as textual evidences show us, that is one part of their twofold activity called Samvara and Nirjara. It is the internal austerity. So it is only austerity, and for them, spiritual paths for liberation is more important than that. Could be one of the reasons. But in the present day context, we read something about Priksha meditation. I'm sure the scholars present here must have heard about this phenomenon, which has been developed in 20th century. Known Jaina thinker, and who, along with his great master Acharya Tulsi, they called find in the Buddhist tradition. But this is Preksha carries the stamp of Jaina understanding. It is spread over 12 stages, and it also involves like and mental processes, as well as the concentration on the objects of spiritual benefit. It has a lot of contemporary context, and many people nowadays go with this practice. It is said that it is non-sectarian and anyone can practice Vriksha meditation, in the sense the followers of Jainism are not restricted for practicing this technique of meditation. Anyone can do it. But all the details of this meditation are found in this small book written by Yogacharya Mahaprajna. If you are interested, you can here in a way descriptive analysis of meditation, but there are some conceptual findings which according to me are essential. Because coming from the background of philosophy, we don't go with just narratives. We try to situate the concept in a larger network, and one such concept we must pay attention to is the Jaina concept of Gunasthana. Gunasthana is a very well-known theory in the Jaina tradition, or spiritual concept in Jaina tradition, which means the ladder of spiritual development. It is the ladder consists of 14 stages, and each of the stage is connected to one of the causes of bondage. So by climbing this ladder, the person is eliminating the causes of bondage step by step. When we read about meditation in Jainism, we find the close connection between meditation and Gunasthana, because every stage of meditation has been prescribed some condition. For example, it is said that Artha Dhyana is possible in the first 6 Gunasthanas. Raudra Dhyana is possible in first 5 Gunasthanas. Dharma Dhyana is possible. Now here there are differences. Dharma Dhyana can be from 7th to 12th Gunasthanas. But according to Digambaras, there cannot be Dharma Dhyana after 8th Gunasthana. So only 7th and 8th Gunasthanas. Shukla Dhyana is possible in 11th and 12th Gunasthana. Now this means if the stages of spiritual development are 15 and the prescribed conditions for dhyana are up to 12th Gunasthanas, it gives us indication that there is no meditation in the last 2 stages, that is 13th and 14th Gunasthanas. These are the Gunasthanas which are known to be Sayoga Kevali and Ayoga Kevali. That means these are the stages of omniscience. But in the low stage of omniscience, there is some yoga. Now remember this yoga word. Yoga activity of body, mind and speech, which is a binding activity. So in the concept of Gunasthana, comes as the bondage, a cause of bondage. So there is this omniscience with some minimal activity, and the last is omniscience without any activity. In these 2 stages, there is no meditation. One possible explanation could be that as these are the stages of omniscience, it is the fact that meditation is not to be done deliberately. One can say that meditation has become the nature of this person, and therefore we cannot say that the meditation is done at that level. It is the sahaja swabhava of that omniscient being. But this demands more research, and the scholars interested in this subject can go for this. Now I come to the last part of my presentation, which I will wind up in just 2-3 minutes. This attempt is to know what is Jaina in understanding the meditation. If we say meditation means fixing the mind on something, can we label it as Patanjali meditation or Jaina meditation or Buddhist meditation? So is we may not be able to label the meditation as either Jaina or Patanjali, but we can certainly find out the different processes and concept of meditation. Philosophical way of looking at it gives us these methods of interpretation and reinterpretation and deconditioning and reconditioning. So, Jainas take a very serious diversion from the stereotype understanding of the concept of meditation, and they refuse to connect it to only spiritual context in the initial stage of theorization. If we are defining meditation as fixing of the mind, any fixation of the mind will be part of this definition. So they analyze meditation in the psycho-spiritual way. They show how psychological activity or psychological phenomenon is basic in meditation, and later on they connect it to the spiritual way. That is the path of liberation. That is the path towards helping the person to proceed on the path of liberation. So Anekantavadi approach of the Jainas, non-essentialist approach, and which is also philosophically important, the commonsensical understanding of them is prominent in their definition and classification and overall understanding of the meditation. I will give just two examples in this direction. One is the definition of meditation. In the earlier stage only, I talked about the factors mentioned in the definition of meditation, bodily requirement, and the of the meditation. These two factors we never find in other definitions of meditation. For example, Patanjali's definition of meditation does not mention this. Now, explanation given here by the Jainas is something that if the person's body is not, the person will not have the possibility of conducting meditation in a successful manner. So bodily structure helps to gain the strength of mind, and that conducting the meditation. Now this explanation reminds main concepts in Patanjali Yoga, that is antarayas and sabhavas. These are the distractions for the final stage of samadhi, and in antarayas and sabhavas there are certainly the physical conditions which are obstructive for meditation. So physical conditions play a very important role as a prerequisite for meditation, whether they are or not the part of the definition of meditation. With the mention of maximum time limit for meditation, the Jainas throw light on the optimum human capacity of arresting the mind to one object. So here they are giving us very commonsensical understanding of the concept of meditation. How long it should be conducted, and whether I'm on the right track, am I fixing the mind? No confusions. Common man or the lay person should have very much clarity about the overall phenomenon of meditation. Now, I'm not comparing the two definitions and I'm not evaluating the definitions. I'm just trying to highlight the preferences that are working as the undercurrents in different methods of philosophizing. The other example is the classification of meditation, that is the 4 subtypes of meditation. I'm sure even audience has finds it very strange that the processes like Artha Dhyana and Raudra Dhyana are mentioned as the types of meditation and not just the psychological phenomena. They are known to be the meditations. So Jainas are putting them under one umbrella, and the logic here is that if as fixing mind on one object, any fixation would be covered by it. So they first describe the subtypes and then prescribe the last two for spiritual purpose. So they are in a way analyzing meditation in very value neutral manner. In the sense, meditation means if you do it in an ignoble way, it is Arthra or Raudra. But if you are trying to put it for spiritual purposes, then it is Dharma and Shukla. So again, all the possibilities of the networking of human mind are taken into consideration, and they are again synthesizing here the descriptive and prescriptive analysis of meditation. Now this reminds me, because I'm coming from the background of philosophy, this reminds me of the theory of Purusharthas in Indian tradition, Indian ethics, which is very widely discussed concept in Indian ethics. Artha and Kama, when they are regarded to be Purusharthas, no one would say that people should follow them. They are naturally the pursuits. So they are also a concept of Purushartha, and Dharma and Artha are the spiritual Purusharthas. So this analysis is not unfamiliar to Indian tradition. We just have to tap the possibilities of further research. And I'm sure in Jaina background or in the Jaina context, there are too many possibilities, hidden possibilities for further research, comparative research, or analytic research, or conceptual research. Thank you for patient listening, and thank you for all the networking hitches that I gave to you for bearing me out of these hitches. And thank you again, Sanskrit department, for this very wonderful opportunity. Thank you very much. I have completed my presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam. Dr. Katarnikar highlighted the deepest thought given to the concept of meditation according to Jain philosophy. So this can be a classic example of what deep thinking can be. Meditation is not just one word. How many subtypes are there? What are the nuances? So it was a very, very interesting and enlightening lecture. Thank you, Dr. Katarnikar, for the same. Madam, can you stop screen sharing?
That is what I'm doing. What should I do for that?
Okay. Take your time. We'll wait.
Stop share. Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, I was just searching.
Not at all. It was quite troublesome for you also, actually.
Yeah.
But you gave such interesting details, and it was an example of what deep study can be, how much detailing can be there. So it was very, very interesting. Thank you for it. So now we have come, all the 3 papers in the session are complete, and we come to the concluding part of the session. I request our honorable chairperson, Dr. Rajeshwar Mukherjee, to give his expert comments. Dr. Mukherjee.
Should we open it for discussion or not?
Yes,
there is a paucity of time.
I'm very sorry. We will take questions first. We will take questions. Like before, you can raise your hands. We will take few questions, and at the end, extremely sorry for that. After the questions, we will go to the remarks. Yes, I can see one hand raised here. You can unmute yourself. I can't see the name here. It is BM. The initials I can see.
Yes, I am Advocate Neena Menon. My question is to Dr. Sridhar Iyer. My question was, I needed some help regarding the relation of any mantra or Upanishad to a certain situation that takes place during meditation. whether we use mantras or we use any other alternate method of meditation, in either of the cases, when the pituitary gland opens and it releases a sweet nectar, which is also called as a amrit, and this flows down from the sushmana nadi to the muladhara, which hits at the pindi or the linga that is there at the muladhara. That's when the kundalini rises up, it gets fired up. So is there any relative mantra or relative shloka in any of the Upanishads or something that can relate to this incident that takes place during meditation?
Because it is told Upanishad, it has been told in the I'm audible. Yeah, because it has been told in the Upanishads that especially these yoga Upanishads, it has been told that they guide you and you come back. This is a process. So for the Upanishads further says that there is no difference in the sadhaka and the devata. There is no nothing called as Shaktiman and Shakti. There is nothing. Shaktiman, there is nothing. He becomes that. And he reaches such a state ki, what you call as Unnatta Avastha or an Avastha, whatever he blabbers, it becomes a mantra. The person, and we have witnessed it in the last few centuries. For example, Gajanan Maharaj, I have to take the name of Sri Gajanan Maharaj. He just spoke. No, you can't question that person. He just said, I think, Gana Gana Ganatha Bodhi. There is no meaning to that. But the Upanishad state that when you reach that avastha, whatever you say, whatever that realized person says, it becomes mantra. And wherever he looks or whatever he focuses, it becomes the dhyana. So I'm just finding here because all these are my points which I written. Maybe I'll end yogo vishesango bhoga jivanami bhoktri yogini. So there are different ways in which they have been mentioned at the home. Because it's a sudden question, so I'm not finding the point. But I do have the points with me, and yes, there is no proper way in which it is to be gauged. There is no, I said the parameters, they differ. The parameters, they keep on differing. Okay. If I get it, the point, I'll just tell you. About the Dehepi Muladhari to Sumuditi Sabirana Nadibhyasam Nadibhyasamasta Nadibhyam Astabhyeti Granato Vishadangulaha. So he has to control, that is the thing. And he has to go up and hold with, like Dr. Penna said, there are persons who have held up their breath for more than 5, 10 and 30 minutes. That is what he had told, sir had told at that time. That's what I had to tell you, madam, right now.
Okay, you can get connected later. Yes, we can go to next question.
There is another question by Sudarshana madam. Sudarshana madam.
Madam, I will answer you. May I answer her? Yeah, I got it. Sorry. Yatra yatra mano yati tatra tatra samadayah. Yatra yatra mano yati tatra tatra samadayah. Yogindrena yada praptam nirmalam paramam padam. Tada deveshwara padam praptam chatina bhutyate. So it begins with actually, Atmaika bhavana tishta, Atmaika bhavanishtasya, yaya cheshta tadarchanam. Whatever he does, whatever activities he does, is archana. Yo-yo jalpaha sasa mantraha, tad dhyanam yen nirikshanam. Yatra yatra mano yati, tatra tatra samadayah. So all these things are mentioned there. Thank you, I got the point.
Okay. Next question is by Sudarshana.
Hope you are satisfied, you got the answer. To some extent.
Yes, sir. Sridhar sir, I have a question. Yes, sir. So Sridhar sir, I have a question. So in mantra, usually we have this Anganasya, Karanasya. So
Anganyasa.
Anganyasakaran is the pronunciation. Sorry, sir. So
No issues.
what is the relevance of that, and whether
See, as a
ladies can do it?
practicing Vaidika and as a practicing tantric, but not a tantric, as a Devi Upasaka,
Right.
as a practicing, the minute you do your sandhya, basically at home, that was my you do sandhya, you touch your different bodies physically, externally, you are identifying yourself with the divinity, you are calling, invoking different gods and goddesses in your limbs. That means what? You have become a Parabrahma. All the gods are like Vishnu, like Shri Krishna. Why is he called as Yogeshwara? Just because he gave Bhagavad Gita to us? No. Not for that reason, according to me. According to me, to Yashoda Mata, and he showed the entire cosmos in his body, the entire Brahmanda within his body. And at the same time, during the Rajasabha of Dhritarashtra, as he went as a Duta, Pandavanam Duta, that time he showed everything. And finally, during the great Celestial, the great Indian War or Mahabharata, he again showed his Vishwarupa. So everywhere he is the same thing. A yogi meditates, he sits, and at the beginning you touch your body parts. There are, we do Anganyasa and Karanyasa very, very short period of time, but then there are long in yoga. There are nearly 54 Anganyasas. The private body parts are touched, where the different deities are mentioned. So you are from this mortal frame, you are transformed to a celestial frame during the process of Anganyasa.
So that is kind of movement. Yeah, sir. So it is also kind of, we can infer it as a movement from the gross to the subtle to the subtlest,
Yes.
like how
you are settling to the gross
evolution
now.
of the chakras also, right, sir?
No,
We
that
can
is what
kind
I'm
of
coming.
have
I'm coming to the next point. This you are doing physically, right? You are doing physically, you are doing mechanically. In Antarmukha Avastha, what happens? You close your eyes and you visualize everything. And when you are doing that, you do breath control. You are doing your pranayama. You know what are the dasha vayu, the dasha pranadi bandavaha who are there. You know, you should have some theory knowledge and some practical knowledge of yoga shastra. So that prana vayu, it starts moving from within. And you know where prana vayu, people will say it is in the heart. No, the prana vayu is at your toes. So that is why when the body is free from, when the prana vayu leaves the body, the first thing you do, to tie the thumbs of the cords and the toe of the cords, because the prana vayu has left. This is the place, and whenever there is pain, no, just touch your toe, foot toe. There will be pain in that, because that is where prana is there, other than the other toes of the feet. And that is why your asanas are very important. Again, I wanted to say asana is very, very important, because you are sitting in that pose, you need the space. When there is no proper place for you to sit, you can't even eat properly. When there is no proper place for you, then you need to build an environment for study, learning environment. We need that. And with that, you begin your asana. And asana does not mean any rubber asana. It does not mean any plastic asana. It does not, absolutely no. You should have perfect asanas for you. And there is a list. I had already read a paper on the different asanas. Why you have got rosaries in your hand when you are doing meditation? It is not for your counts. It is definitely not your counts. You reach a state of what during the inaugural session, Dr. Shakuntala had said, Ajapa. You begin with japa and you end with ajapa, where the strung, the vina nada is resonating in your ears always. You are lifted to a different plane. That is yoga. But that yoga, for this yoga, you have the Paradevata in your as your goal. And that Sahasrara Shankaracharya is very clear what happens that the Sahasrara, it is there, and then he does not say the yogi sheds his body. Absolutely no. He is blissful. He is ever in a state of absolute bliss. That is moksha. I hope I answered your point, Sudarshana ma'am.
Yes. So I don't suppose, I can't see any questions here. Of course, lots of questions will be there in your minds. You can connect with the respective speakers and get them solved, surely. So now is the time of the concluding part of the session. I request Dr. Rajeshwar Mukherjee for his expert comments. Dr. Mukherjee.
May I just add a word, madam?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm sincerely I'm thankful to Dr. Shakuntala madam for giving me this opportunity on such a big platform, because such concepts, such findings, when I shared with her, she said, why don't you give a paper on this? Because I never had the intention, and without this, thank you, madam, for giving me such an opportunity. And thanks
Yes,
to my
yes.
teacher, Dr. Madhavi Narkali, and everybody. Thank you so much for considering my
Thank you.
paper.
Thank you for your wonderful paper, Sridhar.
Okay. Dr. Rajeshwar Mukherjee, please, for your expert comments.
Thank you, madam. Om Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Langhayati Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramananda Madhavam. Esteemed Professor Shakuntala Gowdy, madam, Professor Shobha Sahasrabuddhe, madam, Professor Madhavi Narsalai, madam, and all the learned professors of Mumbai University, the scholars who have assembled here, and the learned speakers, I pay my obeisance to all of you. I was really mesmerized and overwhelmed to listen to these wonderful presentations of these wonderful speakers. I am really privileged to witness the erudite expositions of the speakers who have really captivated my heart. And I do expect that these presentations have also influenced and impacted all the speakers who have joined us for this feast of intellectualism. As a matter of fact, when in my attempt of giving my concluding remarks of the same, on the same, I am often humbled and cautioned by the words of the seers of the Upanishads. Avidyayam antare vartamana, sayam dhira pandidam manyamana, dandramyamana paryanti mura, andhena ivanyamana yathandha. Even the men of reasoned intellect, they are deluded when subjected to this primordial ignorance called avidya. Daivihi esha gunamai mamamaya durattaya. So when we are subjected to this beginningless ignorance, there is every possibility that we are deluded. There is every possibility that we are misguided. Even the men of reasoned intellect, they are deluded. And what to speak about me, a simple person? And therefore, the observations which I am going to put on record, they may suffer from my, and they will definitely suffer from my limited scholarship. So, with your kind permission, I will put on record the my observations on the different scholarly presentations of these speakers. This first speaker of this session was Dr. Priya Vaidya, Professor Priya Vaidya, Mumbai University. So she dealt with the philosophical reflections on some important dimensions of yoga in Jaina philosophy with special reference to Haribhadra. So as a matter of fact, there was another paper which was presented by Dr. Minal Katarnikar of Mumbai University as well, who have also dealt with similar, not similar, but almost coherent topics. There are some areas of intersections, there are some interfaces between yoga and Jainism which have been brought to the surface by the learned speakers. So Professor Dr. Priya Vaidya has definitely given a very wonderful exposition, and she has expounded the entire concept of the synthesis of yoga and synthesis of tantra, yoga and tantra, sorry, yoga and Jainism with reference to Acharya Haribhadra's work. And she has highlighted that the primary stepping stone or the stepping stone to spiritual enlightenment is the elimination of impurity. I am reminded of the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, which is there in the second, most probably the first sutra of this Sadhana Pada, which is called the Kriya Yoga, which is called where the concepts of Kriya Yoga has been deliberated. Tapaswadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhana Kriya Yoga. And the next sutra follows Kayendriya Siddhi Ashuddhi Shayat Tapasaha. So again, you see, by the what is our tool by which we will reach to the highest level of enlightenment? Tapasa Brahma Vijijyasasva Tabo Brahmeti. We have to inquire into the nature of Brahman because through the method of tapa. And what is tapa? Acharya Shankara writes that Manaso Indriyanam Yekakram Paramam Tapa. It is the intense concentration of mind and the senses. Wherever Patanjali puts on record Kayendriya Siddhi Ashuddhi Shayat Cha. This Ashuddhi Shayat Tapasa, which means that Kayendriya Siddhi you will have full dominance over your kaya, over your body and this on your senses, and your Ashuddhi impurity will be gradually dissipated. She referred to the concept of yoga and ethics as upheld by Acharya Haribhadra, and she said that Acharya Haribhadra has emphasized on the philosophy of transformation, and he was non-dogmatic in his approach. Rather, he had done a Herculean task of writing 100 books in Sanskrit on yoga and the allied subject. Next, we come to Dr. Sridhar Iyer. Dr. Sridhar Iyer has conceived of the topic Yoga Maya, an evolution of the yogic techniques and practices in Shakta tradition. So there is always a very close connection between yoga and Shakta tradition. In the Markandeya Purana, we see that the primordial mother, the primordial goddess, has put the Lord of the universe in Yoga Nidra. She is Kali Karala Vadana Vidishkanta Asipashini. She has Ashi and Pasha. That means she is the mover of both bondage and liberation. That is the point. That is the area of intersection of these two mighty disciplines. And he has elaborately dealt with several textual aspects. He has referred to Prapancha Saratantra. Prapancha Saratantra has been written by Acharya Shankara, and the Acharya who has been considered as an out and out Advaitin. He has Tantra in the core of his heart. Therefore, he correctly referred to the awakening of Kundalini. The awakening of Kundalini, the meeting of the Shiva and Shakti, which he referred to as the Yoga Maya or the Jiva Brahma Ikka. I am lured to put on record the beautiful deliberation of Acharya Shankara in Viveka Churamani on the concept of Maya, where he says that Avyakta Namni Paramesha Shakti Anadi Avidya Trigunatmika Para Karyanumeya Sudhyaiva Maya Yaya Jagat Sarvam Idam Prasuvate. And last but not the least, Dr. Minal Karnikar, she has given a wonderful exposition of Jaina Yoga. And you know that meditation is one of the, there also she has dealt with the intersections and interfaces of yoga and yoga and Jaina tradition. And she has said that meditation is the stepping stone to self-realization, and that is the watchword of Jaina tradition. So these meditation, classification of meditation, definition of meditation, types of meditation, you know, in Hatha Yoga tradition, you have Sukshma, Sthula Dhyana, Sukshma Dhyana, Jyoti Dhyana, but she has classified it into 4 classes, and ultimately she talked about the Priksha meditation, which has become very, very popular because the methods of meditation are not widely found in different texts, because these practices are very esoteric, and some of the great teachers, some of the great scholars, they have been compassionate enough that they have put on record these things, they have documented these things for our benefit. Ultimately, I conclude that all these systems of knowledge, which are called the Indian knowledge system in its entirety, have something in common. Although it rejoices in cultural manifoldness, it rejoices in diversities, but there is an underlying principle of harmony which weaves the scattered parts of wisdom into a single coherent whole. Akhandam Satchidanandam Avang Manaso Gocharam. Therefore, ultimate goal is to know the Supreme, know the changeful amongst the changeless amongst the changeful, the consciousness amongst the conscious, the one amongst the many. Nitto Anityanam, Chetanashchetananam, Ego Bahunam, Yo Vidadhati Kaman, Tamadmastham Ye Anupashanti Dhira, Tesham Shanti Shashati Naitaresham, Tesham Shanti Shashati Naitaresham. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, sir, for your detailed expert comments. And we surely look forward to your paper tomorrow. You are also going to present a paper tomorrow.
Yes,
we really look forward to surely.
I am obliged and privileged.
Yes. So I thank you wholeheartedly on behalf of the department. So we have come to the conclusion of this session. I will just end with one announcement. There is another lecture at 7 p.m., a guest lecture by Dr. Graham Schweig. So for that lecture, link will be sent to you shortly. So all of you, a request to all of you to join again, few minutes before 7, lecture will start at 7. So I announce the conclusion of this session, and the half part of today, 7 o'clock lecture is still there. Surely be there, all of you. Link will be shared with you shortly on group. I take your leave. Namo Namo.